So for today, we will discuss about your welded connection. Our connection can be either bolted, welded, or be both bolted and welded connection. So for today, since we already discussed what is happening with your bolted connection, whether it is actually or eccentrically loaded. So for today, we will discuss about your welded connection. There are different types of welded connection, but for today, we will just discuss about your fillet welds. This is the most common weld that we are using on the industry. Fillet welded joints such as T, lap, and corner joints are the most common connection in the welded fabrication. Fillet welds are joining two overlapping pieces or two pieces placed perpendicularly to each other. For example, this is our figure. So, this first plate, plate number 1, and plate number 2, overlap with one another. Then, yung ating weld o fillet weld ay nilalagay natin dito. Ito yung ating weld. Ayan. So, naka-welding yung ating dalawang plate. Yan. Yan yung ating weld. The effective area of the fillet weld shall be taken as the effective length times the effective throat of the thickness. So, paano natin nalalaman yung area nung weld natin? Kasi, sinusolve din natin yung weld natin using the formula of the stress, which is force over the area na sumasalo ng stress natin. For us to identify the area of your fillet weld, because the principle in fillet weld, we are just applying the principle of stress, which is the stress is equal to force over the area. So for us to identify the area, i-take natin tong triangle na to, yan, as this. So, this is the thickness of your weld. Para makuha natin yung area of weld, sabi natin, that is the product of the effective length times the effective throat thickness. So, effective length natin is the length of your weld and your effective throat thickness. Yung throat na tinatawag natin is from the perpendicular corner. Nagdodraw tayo ng perpendicular line sa ating hypotenuse and iyon yung ating tinatawag na throat. This is our throat. Okay. So, kapag yung ating fillet weld has an equal thickness, it means that this is T and this is T. The formula for throat is this. So, since this is a 45, equal yung side natin, we can say that this is a 45-degree angle. Also with this. If we draw a perpendicular line to the hypotenuse, we can also say that this angle is 45 degrees. Therefore, your throat, this is your throat. Your throat is sine 45 degrees equal to your throat over your thickness. Therefore, your throat is equal to your thickness times to sine 45 degrees. And sine 45 is equal to 0.707. That is the formula on your handouts, that your throat is equal to 7.07 of your thickness. That is when the thickness of your fillet weld is equal to one another. If not, you will solve for the value of your throat. And given that, sabi natin, yung ating fillet weld, so yung fillet weld natin is mag-shear siya kapag ka nag-apply tayo dito ng force, perpendicular force, tensile force to be specific. So, ang mangyayari sa kanya, magkakaroon siya ng tearing or shearing. Given that, so yung ating actual shear stress is equal to your force over the area. Or the area is equal to this one. So for our allowable load, we will equate this to your allowable stress. That is your P will be equal to your area, which is this, and your TH is equal to this one. So we will have your force as your effective stress multiplied to 0.707 of your thickness times your L. So in the table 3-8, that is the allowable working stress of fillet welds. So you are given with, you can read E60, for example, what you can see on that is, for example, E60XX. So this means that your electrode to be used is with an ultimate stress of 60 KSI, and that is a double weld, so XX. So yung ini-emphasize nito kung anong type ng weld siya. If it's a E70 electrode, ibig sabihin 70 KSI yung ginagamit natin na FU. Therefore, if you are not given with the value of your shear stress, allowable shear stress, you will just equate that your allowable shear stress is equal to 30% of your ultimate stress. And if you are not given with the value of the ultimate stress, but you are emphasized what type of weld are we going to use, you can identify what is the value of FU. So definitely, kapag ka E60XX tayo, yung FU natin is simply 60 KSI. And you know how to convert KSI to megapascal. You will just multiply 6.9 to KSI in order for you to have your value in megapascals. So for you to have your shear stress or allowable shear stress, you will multiply your ultimate stress to 0.3. And table 3-8 shows the value of your stresses. At most of the time, single lang yung ating welded connection. For example, you are given with an angle welded to a plate. For example, this is your plate. And you have an angle welded to that plate. Yan. So this is the section view. So we can say that this is your weld. Yan. Tayong weld sa side na ito. Yan. This one. And the other one here. So this will be L1 and this will be L2. So therefore yung L natin will be equal to the summation of the length of your weld. That is L1 plus L2. And as you can see, we can locate the neutral axis of the angle. For example, nandito yung neutral axis ng angle. Or the center of gravity. So, we can expect that your force is applied here for actually loaded. And from the force, you have distance A from L1. And you have distance B from your L2. Particularly, you will have a moment. So for you to have pwede tayong mag-moment at P. You can have your moment here. For you to have the values of L1 in terms of L2 using the distances A. So if we have your moment at P, so for us to resist this P, yung force P natin, magpo-produce yung mga welds natin ng resisting forces. Yan. So if we are going to do that, we will have if we have your moment at P, taken your clockwise positive is equal to 0. So your L2 times B is positive, and your L1 is negative, L1 times the moment arm of A. Or we can say that your L1A is equal to L2 times B. So that is the formula. So that is the relationship between L1 and L2. And for the force, kinukuha lang natin yung stress natin multiplied to your stress multiplied to your area, which is your throat times your length. So how about kapag meron na tayong another weld? So kapag full weld na natin yung ating, pag full welded na yung ating connection. So lahat, ibig sabihin, both sides, all the sides of our connection ay welded na. So that would be your L3. So ganun pa din naman, we will just add L3 here. But if you will have your moment at P, yung ating force is located on the midspan of your L3. So, sa gitna yung resultant force of your L3. So, dito siya nag-act. And also, yung force naman ito, acting din naman siya in the center of L2. Kaya lang, siguro mga millimeters lang naman yan. So, very minimal lang yung kanyang effect. So, pwede na natin i-take na lang that is B times A. So, if we are going to use this, so we'll have a distance C. The distance C, that is the distance of your centroid of your L3 from your neutral axis. That is your distance C. So, having the moment that is also minus, tama ba? Pag nag-add tayo, that is also minus L3 times C. So, therefore, your L1 times A, that will be L3 times C, plus L1 times A is equal to your L2 times B. So, you can also refer from the handouts given to you for the formulas.